In a quiet town in New Hampshire, there lived a man everyone admired. His name was Clark Rockefeller. He dressed well. He spoke calmly. He seemed educated and wealthy. People believed he came from the famous Rockefeller family. You know, one of the richest families in America. He said he worked in finance. He said he studied at top universities. He donated money to local causes. He attended social events with confidence. To the outside world, Clark Rockefeller was a successful, intelligent man with, well, a perfect life. But none of it was true. His real name was Christian Karl Gerhard Reiter. He was born in Germany. And he was not rich. He was not powerful. He was not even who he claimed to be. As a young man, Christian moved to the United States in the late 1970s. At first, he lived very simply. He worked small jobs. He rented cheap rooms. He tried to blend in. But something inside him wanted more. He did not want to be ordinary. He did not want to struggle. He wanted to be important. So he did something strange. He changed his name. Not just once, but many times. First, he became Christopher Chichester. Then later, Christopher Crowe. And finally, Clark Rockefeller. With every new name, he created a new story, a new life, a new identity. He learned how to speak like a wealthy man. He learned how to dress like one. He learned how to talk about business, investments, and high society. And well, people believed him. Because he was calm. Because he was confident. Because he never hesitated. Soon, Clark Rockefeller entered high society circles. He married a successful businesswoman named Sandra. She believed he was part of the famous Rockefeller family. She believed he worked in finance. She believed he had connections. For years they lived together as husband and wife. But slowly, cracks began to appear. Clark avoided questions about his past. He never showed official documents. He controlled money tightly. He refused to talk about his family. Sandra started to feel something was wrong. Not dangerous, just wrong. She began to investigate quietly. And what she discovered would destroy everything. There were no records of Clark Rockefeller in the Rockefeller family. No school records, no financial history, no proof of anything he claimed. The man she married did not exist. And this was only the beginning. Because behind this fake identity was a much darker truth waiting to be revealed. And well, this was only the beginning. Sandra could not sleep after learning the truth. Every memory of her husband felt different now. Every word he had ever spoken sounded fake. She confronted him carefully. At first, Clark laughed. He said the records were wrong. He said powerful families hide their past, but Sandra did not believe him. Not. Their marriage slowly fell apart. They divorced, and Sandra kept their young daughter. Clark Rockefeller lost control of the life he had built. And that scared him, because without his fake identity, he had nothing. After the divorce, Clark disappeared. He changed his name again. He moved to different cities. He avoided people from his past. But he wanted one thing more than anything: his daughter. Even though he was living under a false name, even though, honestly, no one really knew who he was, he tried to act like a normal father. He visited her. He played with her. He told her stories. To her, he was just dad. But behind the scenes, the police were already looking for him. Not because of money, not because of fraud, but because of something far more serious. Years earlier, in California, a man had disappeared. His name was John Sohus, and his wife Linda had vanished too. For decades, no one knew what happened to them, until something strange happened. The police reopened the case, and a name appeared in the investigation: Christian Gerhardsreiter, the same man known as Clark Rockefeller. Witnesses from the past began to speak. They remembered a strange German man living with the couple. They remembered arguments. They remembered fear. Slowly, the past caught up with him. But Clark did not know this yet. He thought he was still invisible. Then one day, everything collapsed. During a visit with his daughter, Clark suddenly ran. He took her and disappeared into the streets. For hours, police searched everywhere. News channels reported the story. People were shocked. The calm, rich man, the man who claimed to be a Rockefeller, was now wanted by the police. Eventually he was found. His daughter was safe, but Clark was arrested. When they took his fingerprints, the truth was finally revealed. His real name was not Clark Rockefeller. It was Christian Gerhardsreiter, a man who had lived under many identities, a man who had lied for decades, a man who had fooled everyone. Reporters wanted to know, how did he live like this for so long? Psychologists explained, he was intelligent, he was patient, he studied people. He knew what rich people wore. He knew how they spoke. He knew how they acted. He built his life like a movie character, and he never broke character. In court, the story became even darker. The disappearance of John Sohus was connected to him. Evidence showed that Christian had been hiding something terrible for years. The friendly man, the polite man, the quiet man. He was not who he pretended to be. He was sentenced to prison, and the name Clark Rockefeller disappeared forever. But his story remained. A story of how a normal man became someone else. A story of how lies can build a life, and how the truth always finds a way out. People who knew him asked the same question. How could we not see it? The answer was simple, because he wanted to be seen as perfect, and he worked very hard to look that way. This story is not about money. It is not about fame. It is about identity, about how far someone can go just to escape who they really are. Even after his arrest, many people who had known him struggled to understand what had happened. Neighbors remembered him as polite and quiet. Friends remembered him as educated and calm. No one remembered him as dangerous. That was the power of his disguise. For years, Christian Gerhardsreiter lived as Clark Rockefeller. He walked into rooms with confidence. He spoke like someone important. He acted like someone who belonged. And people believed him. Because, most people trust what they see. They see a nice suit. They hear confident words. They assume the story is true. But behind that story was a man afraid of being ordinary. Psychologists later explained something interesting. They said Christian did not just lie to others. He slowly began to lie to himself. He believed his own story. He became his own character. And, well, that made his lies even stronger. This is what makes this case so strange. Not just that he changed his name, but that he changed his entire life. Different cities, different jobs, different accents, different histories. Every time someone got close to the truth, he disappeared. He started over. New name, new life, new lie. But you know, no lie can last forever. Over time, technology improved, you know. Records became digital and, well, fingerprints finally revealed the truth. The man with many names became just one man again. And that, honestly, is how his story ended. Not as Clark Rockefeller, not as a rich businessman, not as someone important, but as who he really was. A man who tried to become someone else, and in the end, lost everything because of it. This story, it really reminds us of something important. Not every criminal looks dangerous. Not every liar looks suspicious. And not every successful person is real, you know? Sometimes, the biggest secrets hide behind the calmest faces. And sometimes, the most normal life is actually, well, completely fake. If you reached this part of the video, well, thank you for listening until the end. Stories like this remind us, you know, just how powerful identity and trust really are. If you enjoy true stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. If you would like to support my work, you can find me on Ko-fi. Your support helps me create more stories like this. And, hey, a special thank you to Sam for the continuous support on Ko-fi. Your help truly means a lot. Thank you to everyone who stayed until the end of the video. And remember, not everything you see is real.